What happens when a Hollywood icon known for his quiet intensity walks into a studio built on sharp questions, live television pressure, and no escape? What happens when Leonardo DiCaprio, a man who has spent decades letting his characters speak for him, is suddenly forced to speak for himself? While millions are watching, and one voice across the table refuses to let him stay comfortable. Before we go any further, make sure you subscribe to The Truth Narrator, hit like, and drop a comment right now, because what unfolds next is one of those moments that live television was never meant to contain. The studio lights of TheView burned hotter than usual that morning. The audience buzzed with the kind of restless excitement that only comes when a major guest is announced. Leonardo DiCaprio, Oscar winner, environmental crusader, cultural symbol. He walked out to applause that rolled like thunder, polite but powerful, the kind reserved for someone whose name alone carries weight. He smiled that familiar restrained smile and waved briefly before taking his seat. On the surface, everything looked normal. But underneath the applause, beneath the rehearsed introductions and welcoming tones, something else was already stirring. Sunny Hostin sat across from him, posture straight, expression calm but watchful. Her notes were stacked neatly in front of her, pages marked, corners folded. She wasn't smiling the way the others were. Not yet. She had that look, the one seasoned viewers recognized. The look of someone waiting for the right moment to strike with a question that doesn't just ask, but challenges. The opening minutes went exactly as expected. Climate change. DiCaprio spoke with controlled passion, his voice measured, his words practiced but sincere. He talked about melting ice caps, future generations, responsibility. The audience nodded along, clapping at the right moments. Whoopi leaned back, joy chimed in lightly, laughter broke the tension in small, harmless doses. Leonardo seemed relaxed, leaning forward slightly, hands clasped, eyes moving calmly from host to host. Then Sunny spoke. "So, Leo," she began, her voice smooth, almost gentle, "you've built a reputation as someone who cares deeply about justice, about protecting the planet, about accountability." Leonardo nodded. "I try to use my platform responsibly." Sunny tilted her head. "But accountability is interesting, isn't it?" A subtle shift rippled through the room. Leonardo's smile tightened. The audience grew quieter, sensing the change in temperature. "Because some critics," Sunny continued, glancing briefly at her notes before looking directly at him, "say there's a disconnect between the causes you champion and certain choices you make personally." The words landed softly, but their weight was unmistakable. Leonardo leaned back slightly. "I'm not sure what you mean." Sunny didn't blink. "Private jets, luxury lifestyles, relationships that spark conversations. People wonder if the message gets lost when the messenger doesn't always reflect it." A murmur spread through the audience. Someone gasped quietly. The other hosts shifted in their seats. This was no longer a friendly interview. This was a line being crossed live. Leonardo inhaled, slow and deliberate. "I'm human," he said carefully. "And like anyone, I'm not perfect." Sunny's voice sharpened just enough to cut. "But when you position yourself as a moral voice, doesn't imperfection deserve scrutiny?" The silence that followed felt heavy, almost physical. Cameras zoomed in. Leonardo's jaw tightened, his eyes darkening, a flash of irritation breaking through the calm exterior audiences rarely saw. "I don't claim moral superiority," he said. "I advocate for issues that matter. That doesn't mean my entire life is a performance for public approval." Sunny leaned forward now. "But isn't that the price of influence?" The audience shifted uncomfortably. Applause tried to start, then died halfway through. Leonardo's fingers tapped once against the armrest, a small, telling movement. "What you're suggesting," he said, voice firmer now, "is that unless someone is flawless, they shouldn't speak at all." Sunny shook her head. "I'm suggesting honesty. And consistency." The tension climbed, invisible but undeniable. Leonardo glanced briefly toward Whoopi, as if searching for an exit, a redirect, anything. But Whoopi stayed silent, watching. Letting it happen. "I've spent decades using my voice for causes larger than myself," Leonardo said, emotion creeping in despite his effort to contain it. "And it's frustrating when that gets reduced to sound bites and assumptions." Sunny's eyes didn't soften. Some would say that frustration comes from being challenged. A sharp intake of breath echoed from the audience. Leonardo straightened, shoulders squared now. The actor was gone. This was the man. "Or," he said slowly, "it comes from having your character questioned instead of your ideas." For the first time, Sunny paused. Just a beat. But in live television, a beat can feel like an eternity. The energy in the room crackled. This wasn't about climate change anymore. This wasn't about charity or awards. This was personal, and everyone watching could feel it. This conversation was no longer safely scripted. It was heading somewhere unpredictable, somewhere raw. And as the camera pulled back, capturing the tense faces around the table and the audience leaning forward in their seats, one thing became clear. This was only the beginning. Leonardo could feel it now, that subtle but unmistakable shift when a conversation stops being about ideas and starts circling something deeper. The air felt tighter, heavier, as if the studio itself was holding its breath. He adjusted slightly in his chair, the practiced composure of an actor still present, but something more human pressing against the surface. Sunny hadn't looked away. Not even for a second. "I'm not questioning your intentions," Sunny said, her tone steady but unyielding. "I'm questioning impact." Leonardo exhaled through his nose. Impact isn't measured by perfection. It's measured by action. Joy tried to interject, her voice light, almost nervous. "Well, I think." Sunny raised a hand gently without turning. Let him answer. That gesture alone sent another ripple through the audience. This wasn't a panel anymore. It was a cross-examination. Leonardo nodded slowly, as if acknowledging the rules of a game he hadn't agreed to play. If we wait for perfect people to fight climate change, to speak about injustice, nothing will ever move forward. Sunny leaned back, folding her arms. And if influential people don't examine their own contradictions, nothing changes either. A few claps broke out. Not loud, not unified, but loud enough. Leonardo's eyes flicked toward the audience, then back to Sunny. "You're framing this as hypocrisy," he said. "I see it as complexity." Sunny's lips pressed together. Some people don't have the luxury of complexity. That landed harder than anything she'd said so far. Leonardo's expression shifted, not anger, not yet, but something close to disbelief. "Are you suggesting I'm disconnected from reality?" "I'm suggesting," Sunny replied calmly, "that power creates distance whether we acknowledge it or not." The audience murmured again. Whoopi finally leaned forward, her voice low. "All right, let's." But Leonardo spoke over her, not loudly, just decisively. "I grew up watching the consequences of greed, of neglect. I've seen communities erased. Don't tell me I don't understand distance." Sunny met his intensity without flinching. Understanding isn't the same as living it. A collective "oh" rippled through the crowd. Even Joy froze mid-smile. Leonardo's hand tightened into a fist on his knee. He relaxed it quickly, but the cameras caught it. He leaned in now, voice dropping, more intimate, more dangerous. "So what is it you want from me, Sunny? To apologize for my life? For my success?" Sunny's eyes narrowed slightly. "I want honesty, not performance." And sometimes, Leo, the line between the two gets blurry. The use of his name, Leo, felt intentional. Familiar. Almost invasive. Leonardo laughed once, short and humorless. "You think this is a performance?" "I think," Sunny said, "you're very good at controlling narratives." The studio went silent. No applause. No murmurs. Just silence. Leonardo sat back, running a hand briefly across his face. For a moment he looked tired. Not the polished fatigue of red carpets and press tours, but something heavier. "You know," he said quietly, "people project a lot onto me. Things I never asked for." Sunny nodded. "That comes with influence." "And scrutiny," Leonardo added. "Apparently." Sunny leaned forward again. "Yes, especially when influence shapes culture." The words hung between them like a challenge. Whoopi cleared her throat. "Let's bring this back." Leonardo shook his head gently. "No, it's fine. Let's talk." That statement alone drew applause. Louder this time. Leonardo looked directly at Sunny. "You're right about one thing. Power does create distance. And I'm aware of mine every day. But what people don't see is the constant pressure to be symbolic. To be flawless. To be quiet when speaking up becomes inconvenient." Sunny studied him. For the first time, something shifted in her expression. Not softness, but curiosity. "And you feel silenced?" "Selective outrage can be silencing," Leonardo replied. "It turns conversations into traps." A sharp breath from Sunny. Or mirrors. Another wave of reaction from the audience. This was no longer about winning. It was about exposure. Leonardo's voice rose slightly. "I show up. I fund initiatives. I use my platform. Yet somehow, the focus always swings back to what I didn't do perfectly." Sunny responded immediately. Because perfection isn't the demand. Accountability is. Leonardo shook his head slowly. Accountability without context becomes condemnation. The tension was thick enough to taste. Producers backstage were undoubtedly panicking. This wasn't where the segment was supposed to go. Joy attempted a laugh. Well, this is certainly. Sunny glanced sideways. Important. Leonardo's gaze never left Sunny. Do you believe people can grow? Sunny paused. Just a fraction of a second. Yes. Then allow room for it, Leonardo said. Instead of freezing people in their worst assumptions. Sunny folded her hands together. Growth starts with acknowledgement. Leonardo's eyes softened briefly. Then acknowledge this, I care. Deeply. And not because it looks good on paper. The audience applauded, louder now, more confident. Some stood. Others remained seated, arms crossed, conflicted. Sunny waited for the noise to settle. Caring isn't the issue, she said quietly. Credibility is. That word, credibility, cut through everything. Leonardo nodded once, slowly. Then maybe the real question, he said, is who gets to decide that? The studio erupted. Applause, gasps, overlapping reactions. Whoopi raised her hands, trying to regain control. As the cameras pulled back and the applause continued, it was clear this conversation had crossed a line no one could uncross. What began as an interview had become a reckoning, and neither Leonardo DiCaprio nor Sunny Hostin looked ready to back down. The applause faded unevenly, like waves crashing and pulling back, leaving behind an uneasy quiet. Leonardo could feel his heartbeat now, steady but heavy, thudding in his ears. He had done thousands of interviews in his life, faced hostile reporters, deflected invasive questions, but this felt different. This wasn't about promoting a film or defending a headline. This was about identity, about who he was allowed to be in the public imagination. Sunny broke the silence first. You asked who gets to decide credibility, she said. The public does. Leonardo let out a slow breath. The public, he repeated, or the loudest voices within it? A smattering of applause followed, instantly countered by murmurs of disagreement. The audience had split, and everyone could feel it. Sunny tilted her head slightly. That sounds like deflection. Leonardo leaned forward again, elbows resting on his knees now. The distance between them felt smaller, more confrontational. It sounds like reality. Social discourse today doesn't leave much room for nuance. Sunny's tone sharpened. Nuance can't be a shield. And outrage shouldn't be a weapon, Leonardo shot back. A collective gasp swept through the studio. Whoopi's eyebrows lifted, but she stayed quiet, watching the exchange unfold like a slow-motion collision. Sunny straightened her papers, a small, deliberate motion. Do you believe your wealth insulates you from consequences? Leonardo blinked. That question landed harder than the others. I believe, he said carefully, that wealth amplifies scrutiny, not erases it. Sunny's lips curved into a faint, skeptical smile. Does it? Leonardo's voice tightened. I can't walk outside without being judged. Every move becomes a statement. Sunny responded instantly. Try doing that without security. The room erupted, half applause, half stunned silence. Leonardo froze for a split second, the words visibly sinking in. That's not fair, he said, the calm beginning to fracture. You don't know my life. Sunny leaned forward, eyes intense. And you don't know theirs. The exchange felt like a slap heard across the room. Leonardo shook his head slowly, as if trying to steady himself. This is exactly what I mean. Conversations reduced to binaries. Privileged or unworthy. Rich or irrelevant. Sunny's voice dropped. Powerful or accountable. Leonardo raised his voice, not shouting, but firm, resonant. I accept accountability for my actions. What I reject is being turned into a symbol for everyone else's anger. The audience reacted instantly. Some clapped enthusiastically. Others sat stone-faced. Joy finally jumped in, her tone anxious. Okay, let's all take a breath. Sunny lifted her hand again. One more question. Leonardo looked at her, jaw tight. Go ahead. Sunny hesitated, just briefly, as if weighing the consequences. Then she spoke. Do you think your activism would be taken as seriously if you weren't Leonardo DiCaprio? The studio fell into absolute silence. Leonardo stared at her. Not angrily, not defensively, but with something closer to shock. That's, he paused, searching for words. That's a loaded question. Sunny nodded. Yes, it is. Leonardo leaned back, eyes lifting toward the ceiling for a moment before returning to her. My name opens doors. I won't deny that. but it also paints targets. Sunny replied softly, "Some people would welcome doors." Leonardo's voice cracked just slightly. "And some people don't realize the cost of walking through them." The audience leaned forward as one. Leonardo continued, words now spilling faster. "I didn't choose to be a symbol. I chose to care. And somewhere along the way, caring became suspicious." Sunny watched him closely. "Or it became expected. That expectation," Leonardo said, "becomes a cage." A low murmur spread across the studio. This was no longer combative. It was confessional. Sunny's tone shifted, not kinder but quieter. "Cages are built by systems, not questions." Leonardo nodded slowly. "Then maybe we should be questioning the systems more than the people trying to work within them." Applause erupted, stronger, more unified than before. Sunny held his gaze. "And maybe those people should listen more than they speak." Leonardo didn't respond immediately. He looked down at his hands, then back up. "I listen," he said. "But listening doesn't mean silence." The tension returned, sharp and immediate. Sunny leaned in. "Sometimes it does." Leonardo's eyes flashed. "Silence has never changed anything." A beat. Then applause thundered through the studio, louder than at any point so far. Even Whoopi clapped, shaking her head in disbelief. Sunny waited, letting the noise crest and fall. When she spoke again, her voice was steady, deliberate. "You're right," she said. "Silence doesn't change anything. But neither does defensiveness." Leonardo met her gaze. "Neither does accusation." The audience reacted again, divided, vocal, alive. Whoopi finally stepped in, voice raised. "All right, we're going to take a break." But Sunny wasn't finished. "One last thing," she said, turning fully toward Leonardo. "Do you believe criticism is an attack?" Leonardo didn't hesitate. "No." "Then why does this feel like a battle?" Sunny asked. Leonardo looked around the studio, the audience, the cameras, the lights. Then back at Sunny. "Because," he said quietly, "it stopped being about questions and started being about judgment." The room went still. As producers signaled frantically from off-camera and Whoopi tried to steer the show back on track, it was clear the damage, or the revelation, had already been done. This wasn't just a heated exchange anymore. It was a moment that would be replayed, dissected, and argued over long after the studio lights dimmed. And everyone knew it, because something had cracked open on live television, and there was no going back. The cameras cut to commercial, but the moment didn't pause. It lingered in the studio like smoke after a fire. Leonardo sat back in his chair, shoulders rising and falling as he took a slow breath. Sunny looked down at her notes, unread now, her fingers resting still for the first time since the exchange began. No one spoke. Not Whoopi. Not Joy. Not the producers whispering frantically behind the cameras. The audience, instructed to clap moments earlier, sat frozen, caught between awe and discomfort. When the red light blinked back on, the applause came automatically, trained and uncertain. Whoopi forced a smile, the kind that barely reached her eyes. "We're back," she said, her voice calm but edged with disbelief. That was a powerful conversation. Leonardo nodded once, saying nothing. Sunny lifted her gaze, meeting his eyes again. There was no triumph there. No apology either. Just the quiet gravity of something said out loud that couldn't be taken back. The segment wrapped quickly after that. A rushed transition. A polite thank you. Leonardo stood, shook hands, smiled for the audience one last time. But the smile didn't hold. As he walked off stage, the applause followed him. But it sounded different now. Less celebratory. More reflective. Backstage, the energy was electric and chaotic. Staff whispered. Phones were already out. Clips were being cut before the show had even finished airing. A producer muttered, "This is going to explode." Another just shook their head, wide-eyed. Leonardo disappeared into a hallway, jacket slung over his shoulder. His publicist hurried to catch up, already scrolling through notifications. Sunny remained at the table, adjusting her microphone, exhaling slowly. She knew what she'd done. She also knew what was coming. Within minutes, social media ignited. Clips of the exchange flooded timelines. Sunny Hostin exposes Leonardo DiCaprio live on air. Leonardo DiCaprio fires back. TheView goes silent. Hashtags split instantly. Hashtag Team Leo. Hashtag Sunny was right. Hashtag TheView meltdown. Celebrities weighed in. Some praised Leonardo for standing his ground. Others applauded Sunny for asking the hard questions no one else would. Commentators dissected every facial expression, every pause, every word. Body language experts posted slow-motion analyses. Podcasts rushed out emergency episodes. By nightfall, the moment had transcended television. News outlets framed it as a cultural flashpoint. Opinion columns debated celebrity activism, privilege, accountability. Was Leonardo unfairly targeted, or finally confronted? Was Sunny holding power to account, or turning conversation into combat? Leonardo released a brief statement the next morning. Carefully worded, thoughtful, emphasizing dialogue over division. It only fueled the fire. Sunny addressed it on her social platforms too. She stood by her questions. Accountability isn't hostility, she wrote. It's necessary. The audience reaction from the show itself became a story. Some who had been there posted videos, describing the tension as unreal, palpable, like watching something break in real time. Others admitted they didn't clap because they didn't know who they were clapping for. And that was the truth of it. There was no clear winner. What happened on TheView wasn't just a confrontation between a Hollywood star and a television host. It was a collision between expectation and reality, between image and humanity, between speaking up and being questioned for it. Leonardo returned to his work, quieter for a while. Fewer interviews, less access. But those close to him said the moment stayed with him. That it wasn't anger he felt afterward, but something closer to reckoning. Sunny, meanwhile, became both praised and criticized in equal measure. To some, she was fearless. To others, relentless. Her name trended for days. Panels debated her approach. Journalism schools used the clip as a case study. And viewers, millions of them, kept replaying that one question. Why does this feel like a battle? Because it was. A battle over who gets to speak. A battle over who gets questioned. A battle over whether caring is enough, or if it must look a certain way to be believed. Live television captured it, but it belonged to something much larger. And now it belongs to you. So tell us, whose side were you on? Did Leonardo make his case? Was Sunny right to push harder? Or did the truth live somewhere uncomfortably in between? Drop your opinion in the comments below. Let the debate continue. And if you want more moments like this, raw, explosive, unfiltered, make sure you subscribe to The Truth Narrator, like this video, and share it with someone who won't stay silent. Because some moments aren't meant to fade. They're meant to be confronted.